When NVIDIA sneezes, and sometimes when it doesn't, the stock market catches a cold.
Marketplace Morning Report is supported by Schwab. Schwab offers investors choices like full-service wealth management, self-directed investing options, and trading on Thinkorswim. More at schwab.com.
From Marketplace, I'm Sabri Benishore in for David Brancaccio. NVIDIA is the most valuable company on the S&P 500 index, and yesterday's earnings report would be the envy of most companies. NVIDIA doubled sales compared to a year ago. Profit came in at about $19 billion. But its stock price dipped after the earnings report came out. Shares are down 2.6% in pre-market trading. So why? Marketplace's Nova Safo is here to explain. Hi, Nova.
Good morning, Sabri.
What is going on here?
Okay, well, so it's a question of expectations, right? There are really high ones on Wall Street, and NVIDIA's got to meet them. And now, make no mistake, business is booming because NVIDIA is by far the predominant supplier of advanced artificial intelligence chips. But big tech companies cannot get their hands in fast enough on these chips. But among the questions the company is facing is how long can this exponential growth it's on go on? And investors are looking for any potential cracks in NVIDIA's foundation. And the company now has a couple of issues to deal with. One is that it's struggling to ramp up production and make enough chips, and it relies on an outside chip manufacturer. Now, NVIDIA just designs the chips. The other is that it has a new chip model coming out, and there have been some reports of problems with this model.
You're talking about these Blackwell chips, highly anticipated by big tech companies. What did NVIDIA have to say about these special new chips?
Well, NVIDIA says there was a design flaw, and there have been reports that the chips have been overheating, but the company says the problems are fixed. The bigger issue is those production delays. NVIDIA expects a backlog for the new chips to last well into next year. So its growth forecast was lower than it has been in almost 2 years in this last report. And so that's what you're seeing the market react to, Sabri.
All right, Marketplace and Nova Safo, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Federal prosecutors in New York have indicted one of the world's richest men, Indian billionaire Gautam Adani, with fraud. Adani runs a business empire stretching from airports to renewable energy, and he's worth about $70 billion. Prosecutors accuse him and 7 other defendants of paying hundreds of millions of dollars in bribes to Indian government officials so they could get solar energy contracts that would earn the company more than $2 billion in profits. The connection to the U.S. is that Adani was trying to raise money from U.S. investors while allegedly hiding this bribery scheme. That is what opened the door for U.S. prosecutors to get involved. Here's the BBC's Michelle Fleury with more.
Between 2020 and 2024, Gautam Adani and his co-defendants allegedly agreed to pay over $250 million in bribes to Indian officials. The bribes were to obtain lucrative solar energy contracts. On several occasions, Mr. Adani, who has strong ties to Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi, personally met with an Indian government official. During the same period, the Adani Group was trying to raise money from U.S. investors. Hiding the bribery scheme from them is the fraud that they're now charged with.
That's the BBC's Michelle Fleury. The Adani Group, in a statement, assured its investors and employees that it was compliant with all laws. Adani Group shares are down 23% today. Let's do the numbers. Dow, S&P, and NASDAQ futures are all up about 0.5%, with Dow futures up 213 points. The yield on the 10-year Treasury is 4.394%, and 213,000 people filed for unemployment benefits last week. That is a 7-month low.
Marketplace Morning Report is supported by Progressive Insurance. Customers can simplify their insurance needs and protect what's important by bundling home and auto. Learn more about bundling at progressive.com. And by Rubrik. When cyber attacks put businesses at risk, Rubrik provides the power to bounce back fast. More at Rubrik.com.
Spirit Airlines says it hopes to emerge from bankruptcy by the first quarter of 2025. Dozens of airlines have gone bankrupt over the years. Spirit's not alone. Some have recovered. Others have not. They've shut down or gotten sucked up by other carriers. Marketplace's Henry Epp has this look at the history of airline bankruptcies and the place that Spirit now holds in it.
Before the late 70s, the airline industry was heavily regulated. There were just a handful of big carriers, and government officials essentially controlled the routes they could fly and the fares they could charge. And then in 1978, the Airline Deregulation Act changed all that.
Essentially, what happened is when it went into law, we saw just a flood of new airlines coming in.
Daniel Bubb is an associate professor at the University of Nevada, Las Vegas.
And their initiative basically was to undercut the major carriers and get them to drop their fares so that air travel could become more affordable.
Some of those older carriers, like Pan Am, couldn't keep up and eventually went bankrupt or merged with others, though a lot of the smaller upstart airlines of the 80s didn't last long either. That's partly because running an airline involves a lot of guesswork, says Clifford Winston, a senior fellow at the Brookings Institution.
They have to commit to the capacity they're going to offer, how many flights, how many seats, all that kind of stuff, before they know what the demand's going to be.
Which means if there's a shock, such as an
unanticipated recession, spike in fuel prices, they're caught holding the bag.
That's part of what led to another rash of airline bankruptcies among major airlines in the mid-2000s. The September 11th attacks scared away passengers for a while, and around the same time, a new group of low-cost airlines started gaining traction, says Richard Abulafia at Aerodynamic Advisory.
You had the, legacy carriers with all their overcapacity really being pressed downward on fares faster than they could reduce their costs. And as a consequence, there were bankruptcies, industry restructuring.
A bunch of those legacy airlines ended up merging. Northwest joined with Delta,
American and U.S. Airways, United and Continental. So 6 became 3.
Meanwhile, budget airlines, including Spirit, started thriving, as long as their expenses remained low, Abulafia says. But in the years since the pandemic, labor costs, fuel, interest rates have been on the rise.
And that makes it very difficult for the ultra low-cost carriers that never really learned how to profit from premium passengers.
Now he says it's the legacy carriers that are doing well, since they can charge more for first-class seats and international flights, and it's Spirit going to bankruptcy court. I'm Henry App for Marketplace.
And in New York, I'm Sabri Benishore with the Marketplace Morning Report. From 8 p.m., American Public Media.